Good evening, everyone. We want to welcome you to our training webinar tonight. My name is Sherry Mayberry, and also on the line you have Beth Smith. And our goal tonight is to try to answer any questions for you concerning the program, to introduce you to the program, and just make you as familiar with our program as we possibly can. And again, we want to allow time for you to ask questions also. Beth is going to be leading the workshop tonight, so we want to be very conscious of your time and try to keep it as short as possible, but yet as thorough as possible. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to turn it over to Beth, and she's going to introduce the program to you, and you should be able to see her screen on your computer.
Good evening, everybody. Like Sherry said, we're going to try to keep things moving, and at times it's probably going to seem like I'm going way too fast. But the good thing is everything that I'm going to go through is on our website 24/7, so if you want to come back and you want to review it at your own time, you certainly can do that. We also are recording this webinar, so we can hopefully post it. So if you want to go back and listen to the webinar again, you absolutely can do that. You will notice that there is an opportunity for you, and I will stop periodically during this webinar to answer questions. And there is a section in your toolbar where you can submit a question and type in a question. And I'm going to stop, and then Sherry will read those questions to me, and I will answer them. Or we can try to unmute you, and you can actually ask your question live. Sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't. If you're using a computer and you have a headset with a microphone, it should work. Or you have the option of using your phone to call in, and that way sometimes we have more luck doing it that way, even if you're viewing, obviously, the webinar on the computer. Either way, please, if you have a question, there's no such thing as a stupid question. I am more than happy to answer anything that I can, and if I don't know the answer to something, I will be more than happy to look into it and get back with you after the webinar is over. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to go through our user's guide, which is like our training manual. So if you are a customer of Gee Whiz, this is something that we highly recommend you print out and put in a binder so you have it on the shelf and you can pull it out and refer to it as you use the curriculum. You don't have to do that, but it is helpful sometimes to have things printed out and at your fingertips. You certainly can view it on the computer because, like I said, it's always there. After we go through the user's guide, I'm going to go into our sample, which includes 10 days in one of our teaching guides, as well as all the parts and pieces, and really take an in-depth look at the lesson plans and how they're meant to be used and how they're designed, how they meet the 10 different developmental levels of all these different ages, and I'll spend some time doing that. So it is a lot to cover in 1 hour, but I'm going to do my best to go through it as quickly as I can. And like I said, there will be things that I will skim over just because we're trying to do this as an overview of the curriculum. But if you have a question, please type it in the box so that I can answer it for you when I stop. So I'm at the Gee Whiz website, and I'm going to go under Our Products, and I'm going to go over here to the User's Guide. And like I said, the User's Guide is our training manual. There's a lot of information in here about the curriculum, about the background behind the curriculum, about developmental areas, anecdotal notes, individualization. There's a lot you'll see in this guide. If you want to go to a specific section, you can simply go over here and click on the section that you want to go to. But I'm going to go into the entire guide, so I'm going to click over here. The files that we have on our website, the majority of them are PDF files. So as long as you have Acrobat Reader on your computer, it should open up without a problem, and you should be able to print it or view it, whatever you would like to do. This guide is 58 pages in length, so it is rather lengthy, but like I said, it is an excellent tool as you use the curriculum to refer back to. It simply starts with a welcome and then a table of contents that has the different sections that are included in the guide. And then we go into this page, which is Why Gee Whiz. We created Gee Whiz several years ago because we felt that there was a need in the marketplace for a curriculum that was specifically designed for family child care providers. I mean, let's face it, you have a very unique situation. You have all ages. You're in your home. You're not in a center. Most of you don't have anybody to help you out, so you're the cook and the diaperer and the hand washer and the activity person and the curriculum designer, and you wear multiple hats. So we felt that there was a need out there for something that could give you a helping hand. We decided to go with a digital version of this curriculum and not something that would be printed and shipped to your house because it's convenient. If you want to become a customer at 2:30 in the morning, you can do that. If you want to access your lesson plans at 2:30 in the morning, you can do that. So being online is convenient. It's also economical because we're not printing, we're not shipping. And as you all know, shipping and handling has gotten ridiculously expensive, so it saves you money. We are aligned with many majority of the state standards. We have alignment charts for on our website. If it's not there, that doesn't mean we're not aligned. It just means we haven't gotten around to doing the alignment chart yet. We also are aligned with the Head Start standards, both early Head Start and regular Head Start, and those are on our website. So I will show you when we go to our website and go back there where you will find those documents. The curriculum itself is very open-ended. It is designed so that there are a lot of activities that the children can take in different directions and different developmental levels can do in different ways, and I'll show you how that's structured in the lesson plans. It's also inclusive because this was the number one thing when we did our test market that people wanted. They wanted a curriculum that addressed all ages. So you will find experiences for babies, toddlers, 2s, 3s, 4s, and even school-age children in the curriculum. And that was challenging, to say the least, but we feel like we came up with a way to accomplish that goal, with our goal being that it would make your life a lot easier. So instead of buying multiple curriculums for multiple ages, you can buy one curriculum, and then we give you ideas on how you can do one activity but adapt it for different developmental levels. This page contains some testimonials from some people who are familiar with Gee Whiz. And then this section, our first one, talks about your role. Your role as a family child care provider is super, super important. For a lot of these children, you will have them from the time they're infants until they go off to school and then maybe even as school-agers. So the influence that you have on them is tremendous, and the consistency that they have because they are in your program from the time they're little until the time they get older is really important. So some of the things that we look at when we talk about your role are questioning, modeling language, teachable moments, and your own personal ongoing training and self-assessment, which this Introduction to Gee Whiz webinar is both an introduction to people who are not familiar with who we are and what we do, and also an introduction to the curriculum and ideas on how you can utilize it for those who are. We do this webinar frequently, and like I said, we do record it, so if it's at a time that you can't make it and you want to listen to the recording, we have a video gallery on our website. We also have a YouTube channel, so you can go back and listen to it if you did attend live, or if you couldn't make it, you can go listen to it later. So what is effective teaching? Well, we believe effective teaching has several components, and these are just a few of them. One is asking questions. At Gee Whiz, we're big on questions, and we're not big on the question of what color is that block. We are big on questions like, how do you think a bird flies? Or why do you think your block tower fell down? Open-ended questions that get children to think, and also for those who are verbal to engage in back and forth conversations with you. Those interactions are super important, and if you're a family child care provider who's being assessed using either the class or the Ficker scale, those are the type of interactions that they're looking for when they come in to evaluate you. And they're part of what we do. And our goal is to give you ideas on questions you can ask with the idea that that's going to spur you to ask your own questions as you get better at asking those questions. Modeling language is also a big part of the curriculum. We give you specific ideas on how you can do that, and I'll talk about that when we get to the lesson plans. This is especially important with your nonverbal children because they're like little sponges, and everything you say they're absorbing. And even though they may not use words that you use when you're speaking to them, they will eventually as they get more proficient with language. Teaching intentionally, this is important. This is kind of the why behind you do what you do. And in each of the Gee Whiz activities and experiences we include in the lesson plans, the first bullet is always the why. It's why are you doing this? What goals do you hope to accomplish? What skills do you hope to, to develop with the children? And I'll show you what that looks like when we get to that part. Teachable Moments. This page just explains what a teachable moment is. We also have a short video on teachable moments in our video gallery that you can watch. And then this page is about ongoing training and self-assessment. I just mentioned a minute ago the why behind experiences, and we're going to talk more about what this is and how it looks in the lesson plans. But between the picture codes that we use right here to determine the different developmental areas and this first bullet that explains in more detail the why, we feel like it's very important for everyone, regardless of whether you're a family child care provider or a teacher in a public school or whatever. You have to know why you're doing something. And if you don't know why you're doing something, then chances are good you probably shouldn't do it. As I mentioned, our Introduction to Gee Whiz webinar like this is recorded, so you can listen to it at any time that you would like. And we also include in our curriculum what we call our monthly provider review sheet. And this is just a very informal way for you to step back at the end of each unit and say, how did it go? What activities did the children enjoy most? Why did they enjoy them? If I did this unit again, what would I do differently? Were there any experiences the children didn't really engage with, and why do I think that was? It's so important for you as a provider and a teacher to step back and reflect on your own self and what could I have done differently, because that's how we all get better. That's how we all improve at what we do. So that's in a nutshell your role. The next section in this teacher's guide, computer's going crazy, involves individualizing the curriculum and what we call authentic assessment, and that includes anecdotal notes and reflections. Now, anecdotal notes and reflections and individualizing, this whole entire section could be an entirely probably 2 or 3 hour webinar because it is such an encompassing topic. But we felt it was important to address this in the user's guide. And so the next section I'm going to talk about is what those things are and how you incorporate them into what you do. So I'm going to scroll here to the next page, which talks about individualizing. We all know that when you purchase a curriculum, it's kind of like the foundation of a house. It's not the house. You know, when you build a house, you customize the house. You pick the tiles, you pick the floor, you pick eventually the furniture that goes in the house. So we look at the curriculum as kind of like the building blocks of that house. And what you do with that is dependent upon the children in your group, where they are, their interests. Do they have special needs? Do they have anything that you want to incorporate in there that's happening maybe in their lives? So this is a way to do that. So we use a 5-step approach of you observe, you reflect, you plan, you do, and then you reflect again, and the whole cycle continues over and over again like a giant circle. So what that does is in the next couple of pages, we explain each one of those steps. So what step 1 is, where you do your observations, then you reflect on those observations, you plan experiences based on what you observed, then you do those experiences, and then you reflect all again. And did it work? Did it not work? What could I do differently? What I was just talking about a minute ago. So here is a page that explains what an anecdotal note is. And in a nutshell, because we're not going to spend a ton of time in this section, and you can come back and read this. To me, an anecdotal note is like you're a camera. A camera doesn't have an interpretation of what it sees or what it hears, especially if it's a video camera. It simply records the situation. So in this situation of doing an anecdotal note, you're going to be recording what you see, what you hear, what the children say, but not what you think is going on. That's going to come next in your reflection. So the anecdotal note is explained in this page, and then the reflection is explained in this page. So the reflection is what you took out of what you just saw. So, for instance, you observe this, then you sit back and you think about it and like, well, what does that really mean? What did I really learn by doing that observation? And so this page explains what a reflection is. Then you plan based on what you've observed, and you can also individualize based on what you observed. And this explains how you put all this together. Okay, computer, you're going really fast tonight. All right, so we include something called an observe and reflect grid. And this is where you would record your anecdotal notes. So it has different sections for different things. And then after you do your observation, which here's a sample of what one might look like. Oh, goodness gracious. I don't know why that's going so fast. Then you can individualize. Now, our curriculum has an individualization web for each of its units to specialize to that particular unit. But this is a blank one that you can print out as many copies as you want. Let's say you're doing your own unit or you need more. You can certainly print this out. Here's a sample individualization web. So what the individualization web does is it actually it gives you a tool to help you do many things. So let's say you have a child that's very interested, this is an example, that's very interested in vehicles, but your unit is I Am Special. This shows you how you can take his interest in vehicles and blend it into the unit I Am Special. You could also do this if you were, let's say you had a child with special needs, maybe a child that had a language delay, or a child that has ADHD, or a child that's autistic. You could take this individualization web, looking at the lesson plans, and figure out, okay, how can I adapt what's planned to meet the needs of this child? And I'm going to stop before I go into the next section because that was an awful lot to talk about and an awful lot for you to digest. So I'd like to pause for just a second and Sherry can see if there are any questions regarding anything I've covered so far.
Just, if you would, just type your questions in the top right-hand box where it's got questions, and I should see those. And again, I think Beth did share with you that both those blank forms are in the user's guide. So you can go in and just look at the page number on that and print that one page. You don't have to print as many as you need of the individualization web and the reflect grid also. Okay, I don't see any hands raised and no one's typed any, Beth. So, but again, if you have questions later, afterwards, your registration link will send you back to a recording of this in about a day. So always keep that in mind because we're covering very fast. Okay.
Yes, there's an awful lot to cover, so I'm going to keep on rolling. Okay, this section is about the developmental areas and learning indicators included in the curriculum. And at Gee Whiz, we are covering 10. Oh my goodness, what is going on with my computer? It's got a glitch. Sorry. I think I have a gremlin. I'm going to use my my trackpad is having a glitch. All right, anyway. There are 10 different developmental levels that we cover in the curriculum. And these are 10 developmental areas that when we looked at state standards, we looked at Head Start standards across the board, these seem to be the most consistent ones that were in those, and we wanted to make sure we cover them all. So this section takes you through each of those developmental areas and explains what it is and what it looks like. So here's language development. So over here you have what language development is. You have our program symbol. So if you see this, I call it a speech bubble. In the curriculum, in the lesson plans, you know that that experience is going to address language development. Then in the pink box, it shows you what that looks like. So what does language development look like for children? What does listening look like for an infant versus an older child? What does speaking look like for an infant versus an older child? And there are 10 different pages in the user's guide here that explain that. So here's the page for literacy knowledge. You'll see over here the books for that symbol. Then you have math knowledge, which is things like not just numbers and counting, but shapes, positional concepts, patterning, measurement, both standard and non-standard measurements. Graphing would fall under here for math. Science knowledge, which is exploring things, making observations, using your senses, learning about the world. Logic and reasoning, which encompasses problem solving. Approaches to learning, which is curiosity and persistence, cooperation. Social studies knowledge, which is about our family, our community, incorporating cultural differences, not just within our homes and our families, but abroad in our town, in our cities, and then even in the world. Caring for the environment falls under this. social and emotional development, which is social interactions and relationships. Self-regulation falls under here. Character education, which I'll talk about in a minute, and how we cover that. Creative arts, which is, of course, music and dance and movement and the fine arts, as well as dramatic play. And then physical development and health, which is not just your motor skills, both gross and fine, but also safety, nutrition, health, healthy habits. And so what we did is we have the picture symbols like the speech bubble, but we had to tie these back to the standards when we did our alignment charts. So you will see these codes, LD1, LD2, LD3, LD4. They correspond to more specific skills under language development, literacy knowledge. And there are 2 pages that cover these, what we call learning indicators. These are actually in the back of each teaching guide in a grid, so you can look at each activity or experience that you do and see specifically what skills it covers or what ones of these learning indicators it covers. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get into the teaching guide. So this goes through the 10 developmental areas and breaks it down even further into more specific skills. And here's how it looks. So, for instance, this was a unit called Fantastic Friends. You'll notice we don't date anything. Everything is wide open for that. Our focus, and then there's a list. This is a cumulative list of all the experiences. If you did day 1 and you did the experiences that we had planned, you would cover all these developmental areas. Language development, approaches to learning, literacy, creative arts, social and emotional, logic and reasoning, physical development and health, math knowledge, science knowledge, and music. Then each experience, each activity has its own picture codes. So it's double down there, right? You see what you do for the day, cumulatively, and then for each experience. We also include this symbol if it's a large muscle experience, this symbol if it could be taken or should be taken outside, and character education is our CE. We do 4 different aspects of character education in the curriculum: honesty, responsibility, respect, and kindness. And then the next section is the philosophy, research, and more, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but I will just go through it. But before I do that, does anybody have any questions regarding the 10 developmental areas or the learning indicators that we utilize in the curriculum?
Beth, I don't see any. I'm sorry. There's a phone in my background. I'm going to mute it again, okay. But I don't see any questions.
Okay, I'll keep going. All right, so philosophy, research, and more are the philosophers upon which the curriculum is based, which are Piaget, Vygotsky, Erikson, and Slamansky, and there's a description of each one of their philosophies as well as what it looks like. Then we have the research basis, which was all the different research we looked at when we created the curriculum, as well as the position statements from the NAFCC and the NAEYC. Now, a lot of people will ask, well, have you done any formal research on this curriculum? And the answer to that is no, we have not done formal research because we're very young into this, and it's only been a couple of years. That said, we do have quite a bit of anecdotal feedback, particularly from those who work in CCR and our agencies across the country who have told us that they have seen that this curriculum has worked very well for providers and that they've seen an improvement or an enhancement of the activities and the experiences that they see when they go in to observe. So we do have anecdotal evidence. We just don't have formal evidence at this point. And we've also heard, obviously, from our providers that they really like the way we do things. That's not to say that it works for everybody, because it's not going to. But for the ones that do tell us that it works for them, that's what we hear. This is a little graphic that talks about developmentally appropriate practice and what it looks like and how you can make sure you're being developmentally appropriate within your program. And then we get into the section on implementing the curriculum. Now, this section talks about all the different components that are included in the curriculum, how you get started, and then how you utilize each one. I'm going to go through this section, and I'm going to highlight all the different components, but then we're actually going to go into the lesson plan so you can see in detail what they look like. So the Gee Whiz curriculum includes 2 teaching guides each month. Each teaching guide is 10 days long, and as I noted earlier, they're not dated lesson plans, so you really can utilize them whenever you would like. Each lesson plan book is approximately somewhere between 32 and 37 pages long. It really depends on what I put in the back, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the biggest part and what most people want to see are the lesson plans. Now, obviously, this can be really hard to read, these lesson plans, because they're small, but that's okay because we're going to go into the sample. But the call-outs are what are important in this. So here you see the picture codes that I talked about earlier that tell about the developmental areas that are addressed when you do the experiences. This is a cumulative list in the green box, and down here in the blue box, these are specific to this experience. The activities for gross motor are here. This would be an outside. The first bullet explains why. These are tips to model language and the questions. And then when we go to the second page over here, okay, stop. What in the world? Okay, I do not know what is going on with my computer. I know, and it's my computer. Something's going wacko with my trackpad. I am so sorry. All right, let me back up here a minute. I don't know what's going on there. It's having a glitch. Probably needs a reboot. All right, back to the second page. On the second page, we have 2 experiences for small groups, and we also have an infant experience, and these call-outs will explain that. But like I said, what I would like to do is I'll go into the actual lesson plans in the sample, and we can look more in detail about what that specifically looks like. In addition to the lesson plans, we have story props that are in the first unit. These might be flannel board stories. They might be ones you cut apart and put on paper towel rolls as stand-up props. It could be a scene that you use. It could be a booklet. They vary from unit to unit depending on what I feel will work best. The second unit does not have story props, but instead it has a printable puppet that you're going to use to introduce the children to new things, and a teaching tool, which is like a center experience or a manipulative. This happens to be to practice patterning skills. In addition, there are make-it sheets, which are totally optional. These are not something that are written into the lesson plans. You can choose to utilize them with the children you feel are ready, and you can print as many copies as you need, up to 12. For instance, this is a lotto game shown here that was for a music unit that we did. And there's a family letter each unit. It is a PDF. So what we encourage you to do to save yourself some printing and some money is you can just attach this as an email to your parents instead of printing it out and handing it to them. There's the individualization web that I mentioned that would be customized to the unit. And then we also have something called digital family notes. And if you think of these like a picture file, you simply would download these to your computer, and then you could actually download them to your phone, and you can even text it to a parent. And they're very simple things they can do at home to reinforce the unit that you're doing in your program. Our All About My Week reports are a way for you to step back and reflect on each child and what they've been doing, what they've been learning, where they spend a lot of their time. And it's something that you would complete at the end of the week, and you would give a copy to the parent or caregiver, but we would encourage you to make another copy and put it in the child's portfolio if you're keeping one, and it'll be like a running record of what that child has been learning how to do, what they're getting really good at, whether they spend a lot of their time. Is it blocks? Is it in the dramatic play area? And it's just a way to look back over time when you get ready for a parent or caregiver conference and to have some talking points about their child. We have bonus materials for those people who are subscribers. There are freebies that you have access to that others don't, and I'm not going to tell what those are because they are a surprise. We also do quarterly webinars. On our website, we have developmental checklists that were developed by the CDC, which are awesome, and you can download those to use with your parents or caregivers. We also have special tools and things under our FCC Tools tab that are free to everybody, and I'll show you where those are. This is a way to adapt the curriculum for different children in your program. Materials to collect, things like recyclables. We try to use things you're going to have around the house. So we use a lot of things like blankets, and we use bowls from the kitchen, and we might use plastic spoons or paper plates, We try not to use things you're going to have to go out and buy, and if there is something that we don't know that you might have on hand, we put it in red in the lesson plan so that it pops out at you and you know, okay, that might take me a little extra time to get ready. Here are some recipes to save you some money for Play-Doh, bubble solution, baking clay, and finger paint. These are just some tips and tricks. And then here's our outline. And the outline is for the year, and right now we are already, hard to believe, on the second page of this in March. So our March units are My Hands and Feet Can and Let's Get Messy. And you'll notice that our outline does not have numbers, colors, shapes, or alphabet letters like with each unit, and that's intentional. Does it mean we don't cover those things? No. It means that those things are incorporated into the lesson plans, and I'll show you what that looks like where they're meaningful. So let's say in our unit, for instance, My Hands and My Feet Can. Obviously, the number 5 and the number 10 are going to come up naturally because you're doing things with hands and feet, and the number 2, as a matter of fact. Same thing with alphabet and letters. We do a lot of writing and dictating with the children who are ready for that, and we incorporate that where it's meaningful into the curriculum. So it doesn't mean that we're not going to cover those things. It means that it's actually woven into the experiences that we do every day. So that brings us to the end of the teaching guide. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I covered in here, or the user's guide, I'm sorry, before I go out of here and go into the teaching guide?
I don't see any type questions. And please just notice in the top right-hand box where you have the little gray bar with the questions, that's where you would type it in if you have one. And also, I did want to point out that with the developmental checklist that Beth was referring to with the CDC, that is also in English and in Spanish. That's the one thing that we have in Spanish. We get that request a lot, but we have not been able to meet that need yet as to translating the program yet. Beth, I don't have any questions.
All right, perfect. Well, I'm going to close out this, and I'm going to go back up to our home page. And I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to use my buttons because my trackpad is having a glitch, and go to this free sample. This free sample lives on our website and is available to anyone who would like to utilize it, because we believe it's very important when you're looking at a curriculum for it to be a good match. And so there's 2 ways you can do this. One, you can download and utilize this free sample, which is available to everybody. Or 2, you can say, I'm just going to become a customer, and we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if after, let's say, 2 weeks in, you're like, oh my gosh, this is not working for me, I do not want to keep doing this, if you just shoot us an email and say, look, I tried it, it just didn't work, we will refund your money up to 30 days because we want you to be happy and we want it to be a good fit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the teaching guide for the sample unit, boxes, blankets, and balls. And this is a great unit because it's very open-ended. It's a lot of fun. It utilizes things you're going to have around, and it's a great way to see kind of how we do things. So each teaching guide starts out with an introduction. In this box over here in yellow, that's things that you might want to start gathering ahead of time before you start the unit. For this unit, for instance, I don't know if y'all knew this or not, but the Postal Service will actually send you free boxes to your house. And all you have to do is go to their website and say, I need some boxes, and they'll just send them right to your doorstep, which is lovely. So I put that link in there of how to request boxes if that's something that you'd be interested in. There's a table of contents and then a refresher on what those program symbols are. So when you're looking at them in the lesson plans, you remember, as well as the Get Moving, the Sunshine, and the Character Education Code. This page is an overview of all the experiences that are planned for the unit. So some providers will print this one page out and put it on the bulletin board so parents can see and caregivers can see what they're doing. The school age ones are listed at the bottom. And then we get into the lesson plans. So as we mentioned earlier, at the top in the green box, you have your unit, you have your focus for the day, and you have your cumulative list of all the symbols of all the developmental areas that you will cover if you do all the experiences we have planned. So if you did everything we had planned on the next 2 pages today, You would cover social and emotional, language, physical development, approaches to learning, social studies, science knowledge, creative arts, literacy, and problem solving. Then we always have a health and safety tip, we have a teaching tip, and we have a transition idea. And that transition idea is a way you can physically and mentally move children from one experience to another. So it may be moving them from inside to outside, or it might be moving them from your group experience to their small group experience. In this box, we have ways that you can model language. So we have today's vocabulary. This does not mean we're going to print these on index cards and learn how to read them. This means we want you, as the provider, to incorporate these words in your conversations with children. Again, they're like little sponges, and even your nonverbal children, if you utilize these words in context, will begin to understand what they mean, and then when they're ready to be saying them on their own, they'll know how to use them. These bullet points at the bottom are additional ways you can continue to model language as you do the experiences for the day. Then over here we have our Exploring Together activity. When we first started Gee Whiz, we called this circle time. But as we developed and changed and adapted and modified, we realized that it really wasn't a circle time in the sense that it was the teacher talking and the children listening. As much as it was, everybody was exploring together. And so we came up with Exploring Together, hence what we call it. It is a group experience where you can incorporate everyone. Even your babies can listen if they're awake and not taking a nap. You'll have, like I said, anything in red is something you need a little bit of extra time to prepare, and the materials you'll need. And then this first bullet point is the one that's important because it tells you the why. During the course of this experience, the children will use clues to solve a riddle, build both expressive and receptive language skills, and utilize their senses to make discoveries. They will also cover all these developmental areas listed up here. And then it just walks you through how to do the experience. And down here, sometimes you'll see something called an extension. That's just a way you can take this experience and extend it. So for this one, during this entire unit, have the children get the mail with you each day and count the number of mail pieces that come and create a graph with that. So it's a way you can extend the experience beyond just that one time. Over here in this box are questions that you can ask that get children to think. Like, what could not be inside this box? What could be inside this box? Which clue helped you figure out what was inside this box? Again, they not only get children to think, but they engage you in conversations with those children. And your nonverbal children, even though they may not respond to you verbally, will be listening to you engage with those children who are verbal, and it will help everyone build language skills. That's the first page. Now, the second page of each day looks like this, and it has two activities in pink boxes, which are small group experiences, and then down at the bottom, I'll scroll down in a second, is where you'll find the infant activity. So this experience, will it fit? This one is really going to, again, the first bullet tells you, exploring invites problem solving. So we're going to problem solve as we do this experience. You're going to give them a bunch of cardboard boxes, and they're going to figure out, okay, what can they fit in it? Like, okay, if I pick this box, what kind of stuff can I stick in it? Or how many things can I stick in it? And you're going to ask a lot of questions as they do this. You'll see that this experience actually has different levels. Now, when it says toddlers, 2s, and young 3s, it might be that that's an age that's appropriate, or it might be, when we do it, a developmental age. So when we say toddlers, 2s, and young 3s, we're talking about children who are developmentally toddlers, 2s, and young 3s. As you all know too well, you could have a 2-year-old that is functioning more like a toddler, or you could have a 2-year-old that's functioning almost like a 4-year-old. Development can be all over the board, and it can also be different depending on the experience. So you might have somebody whose fine motor skills for a 3-year-old are more like a 2-year-old, or you might have a 2-year-old who has extremely good fine motor skills and is more like a 4-year-old. This is where the adapting and modifying and individualizing comes in, because you know your children better than anybody. So you can take these experiences and adapt them based on the developmental levels of the children in your group. The second experience is called Box Artist, and it's just what it sounds like. You're going to use those boxes from the other experience, and the children are going to decorate them however they want to, and you're going to engage them in conversations as they do that. Then the purple experience is for your babies. It's designed to be done one-on-one. A lot of times we will use, most often we use, of course, real objects, but we also use a lot of songs and a lot of rhymes. Sometimes we'll give you an idea of something to do during diapering. Sometimes we'll give you a tummy time experience to do, because babies are unique and they need their own experiences. So we give you something every day that you can do with your babies. Now, does that mean that you couldn't use this experience with older children? Of course not. But it just means that it's designed for your little ones. So then you go on to day 2, and the entire thing repeats. You have your exploring together with all the other parts and pieces on the first page, and you have your small group experiences and your baby experience on the second page. And you have 10 days of this. So I am going to scroll fast right now, so just bear with me. There are 10 days of experiences just like that, where you have you're exploring together and your 2 center experiences plus your infant experience. And then we debated long and hard about whether or not we were going to put school-age experiences in here, but so many people said please do, especially in the summer when they have school-agers all day long. So we put some school-age things in here for those children who come maybe after school that you just need something for them to do. And each one of these each one of these school-age experiences can be extended for more than one day, because they are older. They can mentally start one thing one day and complete it the next day, or maybe even for a day beyond that. So same type of picture codes, same type of higher order thinking questions, just more complex, and then they extend for another day. And we all know that school-age children are tough to keep entertained. So we do our best to give you some ideas of things that they can do that are not only fun, but also have a purpose behind them. And sometimes that will be exactly what they want to do, and sometimes it won't. And a lot of that depends on the kind of day they had at school. So that's where the finesse comes in for you as a provider to know kind of what makes your school-agers tick. And when you read through these experiences, you can pick the ones you think that they will like the best. After the school-age experiences, we have directions for the Make It sheets. Again, these are optional. You can choose to use them or not use them. We do try to keep them very open-ended. If this was the unit that had a story, you would find the text for the story in here as well. And then these experiences are for children who are maybe getting ready to go to kindergarten, or who are just more advanced and ready to talk more in depth about letters, letter sounds, and do more writing, as well as more complex math. Here's that chart that I told you about. So let's say you do the special delivery experience on day 1 for exploring together. All these codes right here are the specific skills that you would develop by doing that experience, and it would be the same for each one. This chart includes all 10 days of the experiences, and then the school-age experiences are listed here. We include a book list, so you can go to the library, or you can buy books if you would like, or dig them out of your own stash of books that would go along well with the unit. Here's how to prepare the teaching tool, which is integrated into the lesson plans, and the puppet. And then sometimes in the back, and this one doesn't have it, but sometimes, and most of the time it does, there will be songs back here that just don't fit in the lesson plans. There might be action rhymes that don't fit in. There could be recipes, and sometimes there's even goodies, as I call them, in the back. So, for instance, I'm getting ready to write one of our units, and we were going to have a lizard hunt, and I thought, I don't want them to have to do a whole bunch of cutting out of lizards, so I'm going to give you a whole page of lizards that you simply cut apart and tape to blocks, and then you can hide them and find them. So if there's something like that that I feel would be beneficial for you, I will put it in the back of the teaching guide, and then you can print it out if you choose to do that experience to just save you some time. So that is the lesson plans. I'm going to scroll back up here to the top and see if anybody has any questions regarding the lesson plans themselves.
I don't see any hands raised or anything typed, but one thing, Beth, could you show everyone real quick if you wanted to print one page or the teacher's guide from your PC, Beth's on a PC,
yeah.
Where you would print from?
Okay, so when I move my cursor, you can see right here, this is where I would print, and I would click on that, and I could choose to print the whole thing. I could choose to print one page of it. that's where you will go to print. Now, that's me, and I'm on a PC. I'm on Windows 10. If you're on a Mac, that might pop up at a different place. Or if you're on an older version of Windows, it might pop up at a different place. But for me, that's where it is. So all you have to do is scroll around on the actual document, and something should pop up. Sometimes it might be down here. Sometimes on my old version, it was down at this corner. So you just kind of have to play around with it to see where it appears on yours. And then you could click on this, and you could say, I just want to print, one page. And you can save a lot of, people ask all the time, okay, well, it's a lot of color. It's a lot of color ink. That's expensive. Yes, but you can also print in grayscale. And the beauty of it being online is you don't have to print it at all. We have customers that don't bother printing out the lesson plans. They just view it on their computer or their tablet. So it gives you the flexibility to do the way you want. If you are printing it, if you do it in draft mode, it will use a lot less ink. And if you have a printer that prints front and back, you can save paper that way too by printing it front to back. All right, so I'm going to exit out of here.
I'm on a Mac, and so my printing options are across the top. But however you print a document anytime is the way you would print these, because they're all PDFs. But anyway, go ahead, Beth. No questions.
All right, so and then to go to the teaching tool, you would simply click here, and you would download, and right up here is your print, and you can print it out from there. So that's the teaching tool. You would scroll down. Same thing with the individualization web and the provider review sheet, the family letter, the all about my week report, the digital family notes, the make it sheets if you choose to use them, and the puppet. Now, one of the most important things that I need to stress, and this is super important, is we get asked a lot, well, how long will I have access to these? We put the curriculum up normally 45 days ahead of when you're going to be using it. So let's say we're getting ready right now, or we actually did put up, well, no, that's not right. We put them up on the 20th before the month starts. Sorry, I don't know where I got 45 days. All right, so on the 20th.
They stay up that long.
They stay up that long. I knew there's 45 days. It's been a long day. So on the 20th, as of the 20th of March, we put up the first unit for April. On the 25th of this month, we'll put up the second unit for April. They stay up for 45 days, and then we take them down. So, for instance, the first unit of April, which went up on the 20th, will come down on or about the 5th of May. So, what we encourage you to do is when they're put up, and it's on our calendar when we're putting things up and taking things down at the bottom of our homepage, and I can show you where that is we encourage you to download and save the files to not just your computer, but also to the cloud, Google Drive, a flash drive, an external hard drive, anywhere else, so you have a copy of it. And the reason we don't leave them up on our website forever and ever and ever is our website would be so slow that you would all hate it, because these files, because of the graphics, are very big files, and they take a large amount of space. And so we just cannot leave them up there. So you don't ever miss something or you forget something. It's just best when they're put up to go ahead, download them and save them, and then you have them, so that you don't have to worry that we're gonna take them away before you have a chance to use them. Because that does happen. I mean, things happen and you get behind, or you want to do your own unit or whatever. If you already downloaded them once they are posted and you have them copy saved somewhere, you should be good to go. Because we know stuff happens. Believe me. Look at my trackpad today acting weird. So anyway, I'm going to go back out of the sample page. I'm going to scroll back up here. Actually, I'm going to scroll down for a second. There is a video here that's a very short video about Gee Whiz, but you can click that button to go to our video gallery, where we have like the Teachable Moments, and we'll put a recording of the webinar. The prices are here. It's $18.95 per month, $53.95 per quarter, so you save a little bit, or the best deal is $192.95 per year. You can cancel at any time. And like I said, we do have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you decide you want to try the curriculum and it's just not working before 30 days is up, we will refund your money. Here's where you can check to see your state standards. You simply go here, choose your state. Again, if your state does not have an alignment chart posted yet, that does not mean that we are not aligned. It just means we haven't gotten around to doing it yet. If you are not signed up for our newsletter, you might want to do that. That's where you will get first notice of things like webinars. We post freebies all the time, like we did St. Patrick's Day last week. So if you want to be in the know, so to speak, just sign up for our newsletter. And you can scroll down some more. Frequently asked questions. We have a blog. And then there's the calendar I was telling you about earlier, where you can check to see when the units are going to be posted and when they're going to come down. And I'm going to quickly scroll back up to the top because I want to go under FCC tools. Everything under here is free. So I'm going to go under just tools for providers and available to everybody at all times. So here's a weather chart that you can download, a sample daily schedule you can download, which also has a blank one that you can fill in with your own schedule, and labels for your centers if you use centers in your home. And then let's see, I'll go under, developmental checklist. Sherry wanted to see those. These are great because they're by the CDC. So let's say you need a developmental checklist for babies. You can just click here, and they are available in English and Spanish down here where it says download. And I think it goes all the way up through age 5. And these are very simplistic developmental checklists. We get asked a lot about assessment, and I'm talking about more of a formal assessment, such as GOLD or ages and stages or the ounce scale, something like that. Do we have one like that? And when we created Gee Whiz, we debated about whether we wanted to spend the time and the money to do that or whether we wanted to put our energies elsewhere. And I looked at GOLD, I looked at ages and stages, I looked at a lot of those assessments, and I felt like because we're covering all developmental areas, no matter which assessment you chose to use, your children should be progressing and should be doing well. It's more important to choose the assessment that you feel that you can implement well and that you feel will work well for your children. So regardless of which one you choose, we feel like if you're utilizing the curriculum the way it's meant to be utilized, then the children should be progressing and doing quite well. The best way to reach us is through the Contact Us form, which is right here. That is the most efficient way to get a hold of us. We check email all the time. So if you have a question, if you need help with something, if you fill out this form, it makes it so much easier for us to get back with you. That way we know if you go down here to the box, it's quite a large box. You can type quite a long dissertation on what you're having an issue with or what you want help with, or if you have questions about something, and we can get back with you as soon as we possibly can. There are also there's a lot of information under here, like our catalog. There's a sample lesson plan. Under Gee Whiz, if you happen to be from a CCR and R agency or an early learning specialist, there's special things under there for you, more about our learning indicators and our videos. And then over here, if you are a customer, you'll see this once you've logged in. See, I'm logged in. It says sign out. When I log out, this will go away, is where you would find those tools for Gee Whiz customers and training videos that are unique to you. And to get to the curriculum, you will go, whoopsie daisy, you would go over here to this much units and click on that. And that's where you will see the actual units for, there we go, April. The first one over, under, and through is already up. And our 2 March units, My Hands and Feet, and Let's Get Messy are there as well. So to get to the actual curriculum or the actual files for that, you would simply click here for download. And you would scroll down, and you'll see the teacher's guide, the story props, when you would just simply click download and download each one, again, saving it to your computer, and then after they're there, you can back them up to the cloud, to Google Drive, or wherever you save your files. And like Sherry said, we're trying to keep this at just about an hour, and so I am just at about an hour. We will be awarding someone who's been on this webinar for the entire time a Kindle Fire. So in the next couple days, or keep an eye on your email to see if you happen to be the winner. But with that said, I'm going to stop with the last 5 minutes and see what kind of questions we have, anything I can answer for any of you, whether you're customers, not customers, anything that didn't get covered in the webinar.
One thing, when you do download the files, I would suggest the way I do it, I would set them up by month and theme. So in other words, in April, you would have first theme, second theme, and all the files for the first theme would be under that folder, and second theme, so forth. It's much easier to go back and find, and you could actually name the folder whatever the theme is that month. I don't see any questions that anyone's typed in, and we're closing in on an hour. If you have questions afterwards, please don't hesitate to send them to us. If you want a certificate of attendance, please just send those to customer service at geewizeducation.com, which is where Beth showed you how to contact us under the support tab. You can just send it under that form right there. Be sure that you put how you want your name to appear on the certificate, first and last name, and to include the email where we're to send it back, just to make sure that we get that part correct. But otherwise, and also those of you that have been with us for a long time, I want to thank you for being patient as we've moved to this new site. We've had a couple of bugs, but I think we're slowly working through everything, and things seem to be operating correctly now, or at least we hope they are. If they're not for you, please notify us so we can fix it. But otherwise, we want to thank you again for joining us tonight. Send us any questions that you have. Beth's resume and my resume is actually under our at the bottom of the page, right, Beth? That's where we moved.
I think so. We moved everything around. It's there somewhere.
But anyway, thank you so much for attending tonight. Let us know if you have any questions. And with that, I want to tell you good night.
Yep. Good night, everybody. And thank you so much. If, like Sherry said, if you have questions, just shoot them to us using the customer form there, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
All right. Thank you.
Night. Bye.